Hello and welcome back to Unwinding Minds. In previous videos we explored Karpman's drama triangle, looking at 3 on-screen characters who embodied its roles. Then, in a follow-up, we watched 3 different characters make the transition from the drama triangle into the more functional roles of Choy's winner's triangle. Today, we're taking the next step, looking at the practical shifts that you can make to move from Karpman's drama triangle into Choy's. If you haven't seen the previous videos, you may want to check those out first for a fuller introduction. But you're welcome to stay. This one can also stand on its own. As we explore these shifts, we'll pay particular attention to how they play out in the context of disability and chronic illness, since those experiences often bring unique challenges, and the bulk of my counselling clients face these hurdles every day. Let's dive in. As I mentioned earlier, we've already covered the philosophical shifts in the last 2 videos, so we'll focus on something else now, the practical side. You can think of this as a step-by-step guide or a kind of how-to for making those changes in real life. Now, I want to be very, very clear from the start. What I'll share here are examples of how your thinking or behaviour might shift as you move into a different role. It can be really useful to see these things so that we have some ideas about what we're working towards. The process itself, however, is deeply personal, and it will be unique to you. Changing the ways that you think and relate to other people is rarely straightforward. It takes time and persistence. It isn't easy, but it is worth the effort if you find your relationships are being strained by old patterns. Because this is a one-way format, I can't step into your mind, know your history, or tailor things the way that I might if I were supporting you as your counsellor. That's one of the limitations of a video. What I can offer are just examples and ideas that you might adapt for yourself. And to make it clear so that there's no room for doubt, nothing in these videos is intended as a substitute for counselling or therapy. There's something else that's important to state. Please, for the love of all things good, don't try to do all of these things at the same time. You might have noticed yourself falling into any one of the roles on the drama triangle. You might occasionally be more likely to have rescuer tendencies in some situations, and more victim-like behaviours in others, for example. It's an absolute recipe for disaster to try and transform it all in one go. Taking on too much in one go is a great way to demoralise yourself and to discourage yourself from trying things in the future. Let's begin by discussing the practical shift from being in a victim state to being in a more vulnerable state. These are in no particular order, as every person I've ever worked with has not benefited from a strict step-by-step method. The mind just doesn't seem to absorb it very well. Consciously make the choice to notice your thoughts. Witness them first, offering yourself another thought when you're ready. Let's take a look at examples together. A victim might say, "I can't do anything because of my condition." If you feel this thought drift in, don't feel you have to push it down. Be sad, be frustrated, then offer yourself something different. Shift. "I feel stuck. That feeling is real, and I have reasons to feel this way, but it doesn't define my entire story. What can I change in this moment to either support myself more or get unstuck?" Recognizing the thought without judgment helps you to separate any frustration you may feel in the moment from your identity as a person. An important component to doing this is acknowledging how you feel underneath it all. I said it before, name and experience what you're feeling. Instead of dismissing or minimizing it, name what's true. I feel exhausted, trapped, left out from the experiences that other people are having, or I'm afraid. Validating the emotion gives you space to experience things and enables you to show compassion to yourself rather than feel shame. Reframe the self-talk. Look, I get it. If you have seen changes in how your body functions, it's really hard not to compare your experience to what it was before, or to other people's. It's hard to feel that your body needs more help than it used to. Often the thoughts that we offer ourselves in these moments are really, really critical. You might think things like, I'm a burden because others must take care of me. These kinds of thoughts are really harsh, but that doesn't make them real. Instead, it's a reflection of how prized independence is in our society, to the point that we don't allow ourselves to have needs beyond the expected norms. We can work to replace these thoughts with something gentler like, my needs are valid and I am valuable. Asking for help allows me to live more fully, and it gives others the chance to love me as I am. This invites connection and warmth. Another support in making the transition from victim to vulnerable is to practice self-trust. I invite you to reflect on that. Do you trust yourself? Do you think you're capable of doing things alone or with the right support? If the answer is no, I want to reassure you. We all have a crisis of confidence now and again, and moments of doubt are common. Sometimes those moments feel all-encompassing or permanent, but you can build up your own confidence and trust in yourself again. You can do this with simple activities. Write down 3 past situations where you were scared, but you still managed to cope. You can read those back to yourself when you're tempted to freeze up in helplessness. One point I'll touch on is particularly important for my disabled clients, but not exclusively to them. It's allowing yourself to be seen as you are. Vulnerability means letting trusted people know your reality. Saying things like, I can't do things the way that others do and I need support, or today my body's telling me to rest. And this helps us when we're feeling isolated to open up. Lastly, you can redefine what proactive looks like. A victim waits passively for rescue. Vulnerability reframes action to fit your circumstances. I can't change everything, but I can make small changes. I can send an email, use a mobility aid, ask for help, or simply rest as an intentional choice. Small, accessible actions are acts of agency, and they're ways of taking control without falling into a victim state. Now let's move on to discussing the practical shift from being in a persecutor state to being in an assertive state. These are also in no particular order because, again, in my experience, nobody benefits from a rigid step-by-step formula. The mind learns best when it can experiment, reflect, and adapt. With that said, it starts in a very similar place with observing your thoughts and your feelings. Consciously making the choice to notice your reactions to things. Instead of immediately acting from anger or from a need to control, pause and witness the thought first. Then offer yourself another way of responding. Let's look at examples of those thoughts together. If I don't push, no one will listen to me. When that thought arises, don't shame yourself. You've learned it for a reason. It may have protected you in the past. Acknowledge it and then try a shift. I feel unheard and afraid of losing control. That feeling's real, but I can express my needs clearly without overpowering others. I can speak in a way that earns respect rather than fear. Recognizing the fear underneath the anger helps you to separate your protective reaction from my true needs. Another important part of this is naming the underlying emotion. Instead of staying in blame or in harshness, be honest about what's underneath it. I feel hurt, ignored, excluded, or unsafe. Naming the real feeling allows space for compassion towards yourself and opens the door to connection rather than using intimidation. You can choose assertiveness instead of aggression. Next, you can consider reframing the self-talk. Often, persecutor-style reactions grow from beliefs like, if I let my guard down, people will walk all over me, or the only way to be safe is to keep control. These beliefs are understandable, especially if you've been judged, dismissed, or excluded before. but they keep you trapped in defensiveness. Instead, try something gentler. I deserve to be respected, and I can set boundaries without attacking. Assertiveness means my needs matter, and so do theirs. This reframing invites balance instead of conflict. Another support in making the transition from persecutor to assertive is practicing boundary setting. Ask yourself, do I know what's okay for me and what isn't? Do I believe that I can voice that without exploding? If the answer feels shaky, that's normal. Many of us struggle with this. Start small. For example, practice saying, I can't meet at 5, but 6 works for me. Or, I need some quiet time right now, and I'll come back and talk with you later. These are more respectful ways that you can build your confidence in the boundaries over time. One point I'll emphasize, especially for clients who've lived with discrimination or exclusion, is this. Sometimes defensive, hard behaviours form as a cocoon of protection. They make sense in context, but letting people see you as you really are, setting boundaries without hostility, sharing needs without pushing others away, it creates opportunities for understanding instead of isolation. That invites love and connection. Lastly, contemplate redefining what strength looks like to you. A persecutor relies on control and intimidation to feel safe. Assertiveness reframes strength as clarity and balance. I don't have to dominate to be heard. I can speak my truth calmly, and I can hold my ground without aggression. Even small acts, pausing before reacting, stating a boundary kindly, those are powerful steps towards assertiveness. Okay, that leaves us with one more role and the transition to discuss the practical shift from being in a rescuer state into being in a caring state. Again, there isn't one single order to follow. Everyone learns differently and strict formulas rarely stick. What matters is experimenting with small and intentional shifts that help you to move from taking control into more genuine support. I would recommend, as I have done with both other roles, to stop, notice and think. You can consciously make the choices to pause before stepping in to fix something. When you notice the impulse to fix or protect, ask yourself, did they actually ask me for my help, or am I jumping in because I feel anxious? This brief pause is often enough to change the whole dynamic. The idea of not stepping in at that point may be wildly uncomfortable. You might think something like, if I don't step in, everything will fall apart. When these thoughts show up, try to soften them. Don't judge yourself. This urge usually comes from care and from fear of loss of control. Instead, you can offer yourself a shift in your thinking. I want to help, but true care means trusting their ability to handle challenges. I can support them without taking over. Recognizing that rescuing often stems from fear of harm or loss or of not being needed, helps you separate that anxiety from the genuine care that's underneath. A key part of this shift is replacing fixing with curiosity. Instead of assuming you know what's best, try, what do you think would help here? Or, how would you like me to support you? This change turns the focus back to the other person's voice and builds their respect for their own autonomy. Another component which has been consistent across all 3 shifts is reframing the self-talk. Rescuers often carry beliefs like, if I don't protect them, I'll fail as a partner, parent, or friend, or they can't manage without me. These beliefs are heavy to hold, and they often cause dependency or even resentment. Instead, try, caring doesn't mean controlling. I can show up with love and trust, knowing that they're capable of learning even if they stumble. This reframing transforms fear into respect. Another support in making the transition is setting boundaries for yourself. Ask, what's sustainable for me? You might say, I can talk tonight for half an hour, but after that I need to rest. Boundaries keep your support authentic and prevent burnout. Caring isn't endless giving, it's balanced giving. Affirming capability is another powerful practice. Let them know, I trust you to figure this out and I believe in you. It might feel uncomfortable to step back, but giving others space to make mistakes allows dignity and growth. Remember, letting someone stumble doesn't mean abandoning them. It means respecting their process, while still being present if they do ask you for help. Lastly, you can redefine what it means to care. A rescuer shields others from every challenge. A caring person provides support, encouragement, and respect for independence. Even small changes, pausing before acting, asking instead of telling, setting boundaries, affirming capability are acts of trust and of love. So let's take a moment to wrap things up. Human beings often fall into roles shaped by fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being hurt, or fear of being left behind. Those habits can feel protective, but over time they damage the trust and balance in our relationships. The good news is that they're not the only way to respond, and now you know a few other options. I said at the start that these videos are no substitute for counselling, and I meant it. Even with all of this, there is bound to be a lot underneath these behaviours that can be better understood with proper support. So if you want to work through this with someone, well, I do offer counselling services myself, or you can look around. Just like the characters that we've explored in previous videos, you can grow into vulnerability, caring, and assertiveness. None of this is easy, but each step builds connection, self-trust, and resilience. Counselling can be a powerful support on this journey, offering a safe and collaborative space to unpack fears, to challenge old patterns, and to practice healthier ways of relating. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I really do appreciate it. If you have found value here, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and maybe share it with someone who could benefit from the content that we've shared today. And if you're interested in working with me on a one-to-one basis around the challenges that we've discussed today, you can find more information in the description. Until next time, take really good care.